Hi guys, I'm Dan from climbingarborist.com. I want to share this video with you today, and I'm going to talk about an accident that I had a couple of days back now. I think it's important that in this industry where there's lots of potential risks, we share our incidents and accidents from others to learn from. I mean, it's not, you never wish an accident upon anybody, but we need to use the accidents and incidents that happen to learn from and hopefully not make those same mistakes. So anyway, I was pruning a small catalpa tree or Indian bean tree. It was a couple of days ago. It was only about it was about 40 feet tall. It was quite a small tree. I mean, it had been pollarded pretty heavily, or like heavily reduced a few years ago. So you know, it was what 16, 18 inches in diameter at the base, but it wasn't kind of big and spready. You know, yeah, like I say, it was 30, 40 foot tall maximum. So a pretty small tree. So everything I was taking out was, you know, all these new shoots. You know, it had a lot of epicormic shoots because it had been so heavily pruned in the past. So there's lots of little shoots, some bigger shoots at the very ends that kind of were making up the outer canopy. So I was just going around pruning everything with my Silky saw. And then I'd probably pruned about 90% of the tree. Got down to one of the lowest limbs, you know, a decent size structural limb, because like I say, it was a good sized trunk and structural limbs, but the size of the tree had been reduced in the past. So I kind of, you know, went out a few steps onto this structural limb, kind of turned around so I was facing away from my tying point. There was like a fork that went to my left, and there was a fork that went kind of more around to my right, and there was a bunch of epicormics on here. So I turned around. I've used this splicing wand as my Silky saw. So I turned around. I put my hand on this on this stem going up here, and I was pruning like the epicormic shoots off, and it all happened so quick. But it's hard to remember the exact detail, but I presume my Silky must have been in a tight location, or my Silky must have been stuck or something. So I had to pull a bit harder than normal. And if you've pruned like catalpa before, you know that it's really easy to get through. Really, it's not very dense wood. So you know that one stroke gets through pretty most things that are above a couple of inches. So yeah, all I can think is that I must have really maybe it was tight and I was struggling to actually get at the jaw on the saw, and must have pulled it a bit harder than what it needed to. And as I pulled through, and it kind of, the force of me pulling through kind of whipped the saw like right across onto the top of my knuckle here, and you know, it made like a pretty nasty gash straight away. So I went to the hospital and they looked at it, and at first they thought it was a pretty shallow wound, so they kind of cleaned it up and bandaged my hand up, and then they said they wanted to see me the following day as a follow-up, because they noticed like quite a lot of swelling and maybe a bit of infection, so they wanted to kind of clean it out and check and bandage it up again. So then I went in yesterday to get it looked at, and there was a different doctor that came and had a look, and you know, he was having a look around. He was like, "Oh, it's it looks like it's mainly superficial, kind of a wound, and you just got a little bit of infection. And so I said to him at the time, oh well, you know, I did think it was actually deep when I did it, because I could see like my knuckle or my bone, and he was like, oh really? So then, you know, because I'd said that, he decided that he needed to kind of investigate a bit further, so he went and got his cleaning solution and started to kind of pull the cut open so he could have a look inside. And then that's when he found one of the tendons was like mostly severed, I think still hanging on by a thread. So that means that that I have to get surgery to kind of join the tendon back together to make sure it's you know, a strong joint. So basically the moral of the story is, even like there's so many kind of risk factors that we're faced with at work that we need to kind of reduce as much as possible. And this just shows, like I was using a handsaw, and it's because of the damage that it's done. It's put me out of work for a couple of weeks now. So what I've learned from that is, I feel like I'm a very competent climber, very safe climber. I even did a presentation recently about safe use of chainsaws while in a tree, and work positioning and safe work positioning and all that kind of thing. And I think, I feel that even my use of a handsaw in a tree is very safe, like no crossing hands while cutting, that kind of thing. And I use a handsaw a lot because I would maybe do a face cut with my saw and then finish like a back cut with my handsaw, because so you have more control, that kind of thing. So I use a handsaw a lot, but I think what I've learned from this incident is that you can never have your hand in the line of fire, from the follow through. Even though my hand was probably 2.5 feet away from the saw, which you would think, there's plenty of distance there, you're not in danger, but because the saw was facing the hand, it's always in that follow through line of fire. And it's just, it's such a frustrating thing now, obviously, because I can't do any physical tree work for the next probably couple of weeks. It's getting operated on Tuesday. Today's Thursday, so then from Tuesday it's maybe going to be a couple of weeks healing. Yeah, pretty frustrating, but it's like anything, there's so many different injuries that we can occur in this profession that we need to be so on the ball, so cognizant of every move we make, everything we do, so that we don't subject ourselves to these kind of injuries and put ourselves out of work for a couple of weeks, couple of months, that kind of thing. So yeah, thanks for watching. I thought I would share my story, and hopefully you guys can learn from it, take some points away, and maybe think about your own work positioning and use this as motivation. Okay, thanks for watching.